Here we are at the entrance to number 66A on the William Fowler allotment in Chipping Norton. Sadly, our sign has one of the businesses like number 6A, but never mind. So, coming in, we've got the first bed. Potatoes, which were planted by our granddaughter back end of February. Now, these are the onions, which we've grown from seed, and I'm not convinced that they're going to do anything sensible in the time. By comparison, the onions at the end were grown from sets, and they're actually doing incredibly well. Next bed is cabbages. There's some cauliflowers at the end. Around the edges is perpetual spinach. These are greyhound cabbages, which we've always had a great deal of success with. And perhaps that's just because they're easy to grow. This bed is given up to peas. As you can see, there's quite a lot of them. We're just about to pick those, but because peas are better cooked within an hour of picking, that's the last job. You'll see underneath the peas some beetroot hiding. We thought that would be a good idea to plant some beetroot in amongst it, not realising the peas were going to take up so much space. This bed's got an assortment of things. It's got gooseberry bushes, which haven't done anything, and our autumn-gold raspberries, which basically seem to grow anywhere and form a jungle. This is the leek bed. These have all been in the ground a few weeks now, and they're starting to thicken up and get bigger. Notice here our upside down wigwam, which is a very effective way of growing beans. The beans grow down rather than having a dense jungle at the top. At this end, we've got French beans, Costillette, which are purple French beans, and they're absolutely delicious. Notice that there's a bit of an abundance of lettuce growing underneath the beans. Some of these are just starting to go to seed, so perhaps they won't be with us very much longer. And at this end, we've got the runners. They're just starting to get their flowers at the bottom, so perhaps in a few weeks' time we'll have some of our first runner beans. Now this is this year's triumph. This is broccoli, which we've never been able to grow before, because it's basically just turned into little tiny flowers and then opened out and gone to seed. So this year, for some reason, we've done something right, and we've had some fairly sizable heads of broccoli. This year we've grown more sweet corn, because it's absolutely delicious. And last year we never had enough. Just planted a few more here, which were the later ones. We've just dug out some broad beans this morning that were in that space. The inevitable courgettes, which this year we've only grown 3. Usually we grow an awful lot more, and we have courgettes coming out of our ears. But we decided we would cut down a bit. This expanse of beetroot is where we started off with carrots, but sadly not one of them came up, so we just gave it over to beetroot instead. More onions, which were grown from seed. And this is the parsnip bed, which is looking a bit sad and a bit sorry. We've had a very, very poor success rate with parsnips, but we have put a second sowing in, and some of them are starting to show. So fingers crossed we'll get some. These are the broad bean plants, which David has just finished picking this morning. We've got a huge tray full and a bucket full of broad beans to go home and deal with. There are a few small ones still left on it. Next week we'll take them off, take up the broad beans, and put in some more peas, ready for a late crop of peas. More beetroot here. We're growing a lot of beetroot this year because David likes it pickled, and we never seem to have enough. So I think this year we've perhaps gone to the other extreme. This is another parsnip bed. which, like the other one, hasn't been terribly successful. And our few carrots. This was all we had from one packet of carrot seeds. Well, in fact, 2 packets of carrot seeds. So at least they're doing reasonably well. They're in a mesh enclosure to keep the carrot fly off. This last bed is Swede, and it's quite difficult to see them, but at the moment they're probably a bit bigger than a tennis ball. We haven't really had enough rain to smell them yet, so let's hope we get a bit more and they get to be a decent size. And finally, the last bed, as you can see here, we've got some sage. We grow lots of things like that because it attracts the bees, so it helps everything germinate. This is a sage that I planted from seeds 3 seasons ago, so it's done exceptionally well. I'm very pleased with it. And finally, we have some curly kale, and at the end of that, some purple sprouting broccoli. Purple sprouting, of course, won't be ready to eat until next April, May time, and that will depend on the weather because it does suffer very badly from the frost and the snow. So there you are. You're now at the end of allotment 66A.